this asset is going to continue growing. Everything is working in Bitcoin's favor right now. It's becoming an established asset. It's the first digital asset for a digital native generation who are about to inherit the largest wealth transfer in all of history is going to be boomers inheriting to their kids. A lot of that is going to get converted into Bitcoin because these are people, you and me. And probably the most important thing that's happening right now is...
What's going on, guys? Today we've got an awesome episode with Yago. He is the core contributor to BitcoinOS. He's been building things on top of and around Bitcoin for years. In this conversation, we talk about Bitcoin's current winning streak, what's going right, and how we got here. Then we talk about areas of improvement for Bitcoin and how we can continue to scale it, both not only in terms of transactions, but also many other use cases. Yago's got many interesting ideas, and he's been working diligently trying to figure out very technical aspects of how we can improve Bitcoin. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I think you guys will as well. Here's my latest conversation with Yago. All right, I thought a great place to start the conversation is Bitcoin is winning. And I think there's a lot of people really excited about this. Bitcoin has outperformed altcoins and it's pretty much blown most people's expectations away. Usually in a market, the largest asset is actually the one with the least volatility. And the further you got on the risk curve, it's why you're pushing out on the risk curve. You get more volatility both up and down. That's not happening here. So what do you think is driving this?
I think two things. First of all, we've got this asset which went from zero to $2 trillion in 16 years. Started as a white paper, became the first true new asset class of the digital age, right? But it did all of that during a period of time when the largest country in the world and all of the other nations were sanctioning it, right? The United States was sanctioning North Korea, was sanctioning Iran, was sanctioning Russia, and was sanctioning Bitcoin. Now, all of that has ended suddenly. Right. So we've got this asset, which is a proven ability to grow faster than any other asset while under sanction, and the sanctions are falling away. In fact, this administration is saying it's a priority, right?
So is that like I heard somebody describe it as it's like pushing a beach ball under the water,
beach ball, yeah.
And then basically you take your hands away. What happens? Like the thing just pops.
Yeah. So I think that's a big part of the story, right? And then nothing in Bitcoin has ever been priced in, right? Like no one was pricing in a $2 trillion asset even 6 months ago, right? Certainly not 10 years ago, right? This asset is going to continue growing. Everything is working in Bitcoin's favor right now. So it's becoming an established asset. It is becoming an established asset which is not connected to any particular geopolitical constellation at a time that the post-World War II geopolitical constellation is falling to pieces. It's the first digital asset for a digital native generation who are about to inherit the largest wealth transfer in all of history is going to be boomers giving inheriting to their kids. And that's like real estate, it's stocks, it's bonds. A lot of that is going to get converted into Bitcoin because these are people, you and me. I've grown up with Bitcoin as our first asset. And probably the most important thing that's happening right now is, we've opened this box with the most powerful genie mankind has ever opened, right? Which is AI. It's the amount of productivity within my businesses that it is already generating is insane. Like I can do much more with fewer people.
Like what are some examples of how you guys are using AI inside of these kind of Bitcoin related companies?
Development, right? Mm-hmm. So everything from actually writing code to testing, the ability to do research, including complex mathematical research, everything to do with marketing and preparing materials. The truth is that this is like a superpower for every single person who's currently using it, right? And it's general purpose, and it's very, very plug and play, right? It's basically like everyone gets this really, really smart assistant who keeps on getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And so it's going to take a little bit of time, but only a little bit of time for that productivity to start reflecting in the market, right? We're going to see substantial growth. And where's that growth going to go? It doesn't look like the reason we saw a week ago NVIDIA and the Magnificent Seven crash was because it suddenly dawned on people that they're going to really, really struggle to capture the value that is being created. There's this massive trillions of dollars of wealth are going to be created, but the tech itself, the compute itself is commoditized. And so where is that new wealth that is being generated going to have to go? It's going to go to the scarcest asset. It's going to go to the most digital asset. It's going to go to Bitcoin. That's before you even think about the fact that AIs are going to be a big part and eventually they're going to be the majority of the economy. AI agents interacting with each other, and they're not going to interact in dollars or stable coins because they don't care about the price of vegetables. They don't eat vegetables. Right? What they care about is the price of compute. They care about the price of energy. And BTC is the asset of compute and energy.
Why won't they use stablecoins though?
I mean, look, they might, but the reality is that for them, it is going to be a much like I'll put it the other way around. Why do we use stablecoins? Right? You use stablecoins because you've got your very, very physical, very, very human expenses. AIs don't have this. They will have higher frequency transactions. They will want those transactions to be more tied to a digital economy, both in terms of energy and compute. And Bitcoin is literally just energy plus compute. And because it's entirely permissionless and it's the largest digital network in the world. Right? So they may be using Bitcoin for settling stablecoins. They may be using other assets as well, but a big part of that is going to be almost by default in BTC. 70% of the crypto space is BTC. So I think to a first approximation, 70% of these transactions are going to be in BTC.
Mm-hmm. And when you see the AI agents coming to the market, how much of this is like trading type stuff? Because that seems to be a lot of what people are doing right now versus hey, AI agent, I need to book a trip, go and do some research for me, figure out the best places to go and stay, rent a car, do blah, 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 whatever, and then go book it all for me.
So I think you maybe remember, like the way I got into Bitcoin was through AI, right? 2011, I was at Carnegie Mellon. I was building out neural networks. And because of that, I ended up by mistake reading the Bitcoin white paper. And these two things clicked in my mind because I was really, really concerned about what this world, which was going to be mediated by like everything's going digital and there are no property rights in the digital world, what it was going to look like. And suddenly, the Bitcoin white paper was like, here's the recipe. Here's how we actually bring for the first time property rights. And then as a result, by extension, any rights into the digital world. So I think as you're thinking about what this economy looks like, it's going to be more and more and more. In the last batch of YC, there's one of the companies is a company which is their whole thing is they're trying to buy other companies and replace all of the employees with digital agents. And so, one of the big problems, you know this, as someone who's built a business, what is the most complicated thing of building a business? Regulation's tough. 0 to 1 is tough. Figuring out the market is tough. But ultimately, the hardest thing is the human element. Scaling the talent that you have, replicating the talent that you have. But let's say you finally put together like the perfect team with the perfect culture and they know how to work together. You can't just copy paste that. But if you do the same thing with AI agents, you can. They can just build the perfect team and you can copy paste it to new problem sets. So I think people are massively underestimating how impactful this is going to be, even in the short term and certainly in the medium term. It's going to, all of the complexities of, your guys, they've taken a snow day today, right? AI doesn't take a snow day. AI doesn't get involved in DEI. AI doesn't get involved in sexual harassment, and AI doesn't get sick. AI doesn't get pregnant. So, or call in, just all of this stuff, this complexity.
By the way, our team will not be taking this to snow day. They'll be here by the end of this. Now that I've said, get your asses here.
What you should text them is they've got they'll be here in 30 minutes, so they're replaced by AI.
So when we think about Bitcoin and stablecoins role, like one of the things that stablecoins also are doing is they are very large buyers of U.S. Treasuries. So
that's right.
Great business model for them. David Sachs, the new crypto and AI czar, he's come out and he said, hey, we think that this can further enhance the dollar's dominance. This can protect the global reserve status. And it is, he estimates trillions of dollars of demand for these treasuries. When you see that, do you feel a little bit like Bitcoin is taking a backseat to the stablecoin stuff? Or is it just, in my mind, it almost feels like kind of short-term versus long-term problem, right? I think stablecoins are a band-aid for the short-term problem. Bitcoin is the solution for the long-term problem.
I think these are very complementary assets, right? So Bitcoin at BTC isn't a currency yet. Maybe it never becomes a currency for day-to-day payments, at least for humans in the way that we think about a currency. Because it is volatile and it's never going to stop being volatile, right? And so if you are, mathematically limited and you take time to you need to calculate each time. This is not a problem that a computer has. It doesn't need to try and figure out like the BTC, how much was it worth yesterday, how much is it today. Maths is, it's native tongue. But for us, it's really important that the groceries are the same price every single day. And if they are not, if the price of groceries changes, people get really angry and are in the streets, right? So I would say that stablecoins are a very, very human asset. And BTC is a little bit more agnostic. It can be human, but in many ways, and I've expected this for a long time, it is like digital first, and then as a result, it's AI first. But regardless, even for us right now, as just people putting aside AI, BTC is this long-term sound money, commodity money asset. The dollar is an asset created by a government with the best of intentions, from Elon Musk, is adding, close to $2 trillion of debt every year. It is inevitably that nobody stops the train when it comes to that. Just means a slow grinding inflation, right? It's built into the mechanism. And so these are just two very, very different assets in terms of what they're doing. Even when we had the gold standard, there were people using dollars, right? The dollar was backed by gold, but people were still trading in dollars.
And let's talk about maybe some of the scaling challenges, maybe the areas of opportunity, the areas for improvement with Bitcoin. I think of this as like when you're winning is the exact time that you need to be paying attention to how you could be disrupted or what your weaknesses are. What are some of the things that you see with Bitcoin that we actually could improve on to help accelerate it?
I mean, look, Bitcoin as it is right now is extremely limited.
Today's episode is brought to you by Franzi. If you're a dreamer, a go-getter, or someone looking to own a business, you better listen up. Franzi is the ultimate platform to make franchise ownership accessible and achievable for everyone, from corporate escapees to side hustle seekers and investors. Franzi does more than just list franchises. It's equipped with the Franzi Fit Score, an AI-powered matching tool that finds the best brands for you based on your financials, your experience, your risk tolerance, and your goals. You can also get pre-qualified to see exactly what you can afford, check brand availability in your area, and discover the hottest new concepts hitting the market. And if you need guidance, Franzi's team of expert coaches are there to help you navigate the world of franchising and find the right opportunities for you. So whether you're just starting or you're looking to expand, Franzi's got everything you need. Head over to franzi.com/pomp today and start your journey to business ownership. Again, that's franzi.com/pomp to start your journey to business ownership. Today's episode is brought to you by Reed Smith. The practice of law has the power to drive progress, to move businesses forward and support them in achieving their goals. By seizing opportunities and overcoming obstacles, Reed Smith is focused on outcomes. I personally use them as my law firm, and I think that they are fantastic. They know that your time is valuable and that your matters are important. Their deep industry knowledge, longstanding relationships, and collaborative structure make them the go-to partner for complex disputes, transactions, and regulatory matters. Reed Smith delivers purposeful, highly engaged client service that drives progress for your business. Go to reedsmith.com to learn more about the best lawyers in the game. reedsmith.com. Go check them out today.
One of the reasons it hasn't been used in more high-frequency commerce is because of these limitations, right? So you can only do so many transactions at a time. The transactions are relatively expensive. And you can't build any applications or services directly into Bitcoin. So, for most of the people who got into Bitcoin over the years, like the one thing that Bitcoin promises you is it's like your financial sovereignty. You're truly free. You're basically financially off grid, right? It's not money that sits in a bank and the bank can confiscate it. It's not money that, can be stopped at the border. It's literally the one thing that you can truly own. Even like real estate here in Manhattan, when COVID rolls around, you're not allowed to charge people rent anymore, right? So it's the one thing that the only rules around it are set by you. But the problem is that if you want to actually do anything with BTC, if you want to do anything with Bitcoin, then you have to give up all of that. right? So people just sit hodling their Bitcoin like dragons sit in gold. Because if I want to lend it, if I want to turn it into a productive asset, if I want to trade with it, if I want to use it to create a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin, if I want to, use it with a service, I am inevitably today giving it up. And then I'll go to a Celsius or a BlockFi or an FTX, and people got very, very burnt by that again and again and again. So the question is, how can we build an application layer, an economy around Bitcoin, which is natively secured by Bitcoin and natively interacts with Bitcoin, is as decentralized by Bitcoin because it is Bitcoin. It's basically just an extension of Bitcoin. And sort of, a lot of us have made this distinction. You're one of them, right? The distinction between Bitcoin and crypto, right? There's Bitcoin and there's everything else. And crypto was supposed to be the answer to this question of how do we build an economy around Bitcoin? How do we build applications around Bitcoin? And so we've got all of these smart contract chains that have come out, and they let you build smart contracts, which are basically like these supposedly trustless systems, which are supposed to allow you to do decentralized finance or decentralized autonomous organizations, etc., right? But none of them interact with Bitcoin at all. Bitcoin, and in fact, every single one of these chains is basically like an island which doesn't communicate with each other. And so we're in this weird situation where BTC, the asset, is just powering ahead, but people can't do anything with it. And this whole application layer that was supposed to, promise us, Web3, decentralize all the things, empower people, disempower the large organizations, protect your privacy, protect your data, monetize your life, all of this stuff has basically fragmented into a bunch of little pitsy islands with no access to the big asset base, and have basically become a whole bunch of casinos with terrible UX because of the fragmentation, with liquidity fragmented, user bases fragmented.
When you think of those casinos, how much of it is people are trying to get rich, and if they look at it as like a form of financial investment, although they understand that it's risky, versus it is pure entertainment?
Well, I think it's a combination of entertainment and trying to get rich, but the entertainment is driven by the desire to get rich, which is kind of like Vegas, right? So people go down to Vegas to have a good time. But the reason you're at the roulette table, the reason you're, at the slot machine, just that action, right? That pulling that thing, it wouldn't entertain you for very long. What's actually entertaining, what's driving the entertainment is maybe I'm going to get rich or maybe I'm going to lose it all. It's the adrenaline rush of wanting to get rich. But the thing is with where we are, I think as a culture right now, especially economically, is there's seeped into that is a certain stench of desperation. People figure like this is their last shot. Mm-hmm. And so people are desperately trying to go for the riskiest gamble they can when they're, in the meme coin world. And sure, they're having fun, but that fun is driven by the adrenaline and by the desperation.
Mm-hmm. When you think about what you guys are building, describe kind of at a high level, what is it that you guys are building on top of and around Bitcoin that you think is going to help solve some of these issues?
Sure. So look, basically this problem that I was talking about is that you can't do anything with your BTC. And the entire world of crypto, which was supposed to be built on this massive asset base, $2 trillion asset base, cannot connect with it. That is the problem that we're looking to solve. I think those are basically the two fundamental problems that we have with both Bitcoin and crypto today. Crypto isn't succeeding because it doesn't have BTC. BTC isn't achieving its mission, right? And my number go up, sure, but it's not achieving its mission of freeing people because, you're being driven into the ETF, and you're just being driven to sit on the asset. Okay, so how do you fix it? Well, Satoshi, in the very, very first version of Bitcoin that was ever released, there's weird clues that he actually thought he knew what the solution was, right? So in that version 0.1.0, there are little remnants, not only of Bitcoin and the first blockchain, but also of the first decentralized application, the first dApp. There are little remnants of code that he didn't fully pull out. And the first decentralized application that was ever built was called Poker Lobby, and it was built by Satoshi Nakamoto. And his idea was, well, I'm building this money. People are going to need to do something with it. So I'm going to build a decentralized, trustless poker game into this thing. And he stripped it out just before he made it public. because he realized that the way that Bitcoin was today, and back then as well, because it hasn't changed that much, it just wouldn't scale. So this is, a problem which has obsessed me. The very first sort of token that came after Bitcoin, the very first attempts at token was actually an attempt to build applications and tokens on Bitcoin. It was called colored coins. It was this idea that you could take like a set and add some metadata, color it, and then it could represent gold, or it could represent shares of a company on the world's best ledger, right? The Bitcoin ledger. So,
and why did colored coins not work?
The reason colored coins didn't work is because you were coloring sats. And there was no way to add additional information. There was no way for Bitcoin to understand or see anything outside of what was just happening inside of the chain. Basically, those tokens were as limited as Bitcoin, as BTC is. And so just as developers were just straight-jacketed too much to be able to build something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was on your show a few years ago and I was talking about us building the world's first DeFi for Bitcoin. And we built the sovereign into the largest DeFi ecosystem for Bitcoin. There was a central flaw to everything that we were doing, which is that you had to put your Bitcoin into this multi-sig federation in order to move it into the system. And this problem kept me awake at night. It was a security flaw. It meant that I wasn't comfortable putting most of my Bitcoin into it. And it meant that the system wasn't being secured by Bitcoin. And so back in 2021, we set up a research group to try and study this problem. And we had this belief that there was a way to scale Bitcoin, basically provide infinite scale, provide infinite programmability, basically take this entire application there, build like a decentralized internet on Bitcoin instead of on all kinds of other systems. And that you really only needed one thing to do that, which was the ability to verify a new kind of cryptography called a ZK proof. Now, we can dive into it, but for now, I'm just going to put that aside and say, imagine you had this kind of cryptography, which basically allows you to prove that something happened in the outside world or prove that a computation happened to Bitcoin, and then you could execute it on Bitcoin, right? And we believe that in order to make this change, that we would need some kind of soft fork in Bitcoin. So we started working for almost 4 years. We were working on building out this soft fork for Bitcoin until at the end of 2023, we suddenly had this moment like in Pulp Fiction. You open up the suitcase and the light shines. It was like the choir of heaven sung to us. And we realized we probably had figured out a way to do it without any soft fork at all. And so in April, we published a white paper describing how we were going to do this. The white paper was called BitSnark, which is this sort of a snark is a kind of ZK verification for Bitcoin. And then in Bitcoin Nashville, just before Trump got on stage and spoke for the first time ever in block 853.626, Bitcoin opened its eyes and got a brain. We verified the first ZK proof in Bitcoin. Now, at the time, it was a very, very awkward sort of hacky kind of thing. It took 54 transactions. It was, hard coded. We could only prove like one thing, which was like A times B equals C. But since then, we've been building out a system to make this general purpose, to build an operating system, right? The Bitcoin operating system, so that you can do any kind of computation, any kind of scale on Bitcoin. And probably by the time people are watching this, we will have launched the testnet of the system. Mm-hmm. It is something that even we thought was going to be impossible, despite the fact that we'd been banging our heads against this problem for over 10 years. And now we're sort of on the precipice of it happening. So in many ways, like, it's kind of poetic, right? The first chapter of Bitcoin is coming to a close. The chapter of Bitcoin, the hated sort of sanctioned asset, is coming to a close. And now the new chapter, the chapter of mass adoption of Bitcoin is about to begin. And for that, we need the technology for Bitcoin to scale, to have inherent privacy, to have smart contracts, to have applications built in it, to have AI interact with it.
How do you do this with what many people would say are the limitations of Bitcoin in terms of block sizes, scalability, et cetera? Are you using the Lightning Network? Are you using something else? Like, just describe kind of the scalability that you're able to leverage in order to be able to do something like you're describing.
So let me explain just briefly about zero knowledge, right? Zero knowledge proofs is a way of proving something without having to provide almost any knowledge about how you prove.
The best example I always use is if you walked up to a bouncer at a bar and you had to show your ID, they also see your address, your full name, all that stuff. But really all they care about is, are you 21? And so if you could basically, they knew you were 21, but you didn't have to tell them any of your information. That would be an equivalent.
So if you just like put your ID into a slot and then a red light or a green light go over, they know nothing about you. They don't even know if you're 21. They just know you're above 21, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what zero knowledge proof cryptography was designed for. It was actually designed for privacy. Mm-hmm. But turns out that this kind of cryptography, because it's providing privacy, is actually providing compression as well, right? Because you think about it, you've got all of these details that get stripped out, and the one important detail that you require is provided. So this kind of cryptography, in large part because Ethereum was so bullish on it, has really advanced tremendously over the last few years. And so now we're at a place where you can take any kind of computation and you can run that computation and fold it into a tiny zero knowledge proof that proves that the computation happened exactly the way it was supposed to. And these proofs are 300 bytes, right? That is nothing, not even a kilobyte. And so what we can do is we can take 300 byte proofs and write them, verify them, and execute them in Bitcoin so that you can take thousands of transactions, compress them into this tiny little 300 byte proof, and then write it to Bitcoin so that all of these proofs become basically a Bitcoin transaction.
And what would you use this for? Like, give me a real world example of something I would do that would, benefit from using this system.
Sure. So,
today's episode is brought to you by Ledger. They're celebrating 10 years as the most trusted name in crypto security. With over 7 million users and 20% of the world's digital assets secured, Ledger continues to lead the way in protecting your crypto and digital ownership. Their latest devices, Ledger Stax and Ledger Flex, feature the world's first secure touchscreens, making managing your assets easier and safer than ever. Plus, the new Ledger Security Key app offers a secure alternative to traditional passwords, enhancing your digital security. Go to ledgerpomp.com to take control of your digital future. That's ledgerpomp.com. LEDGER pomp.com.
I'll take it up by levels, right? So the number one thing that people are interested in doing with this right now is there's this entire world of crypto which has been divorced from Bitcoin, right? So now we have Bitcoin layer 2s. We have Ethereum layer 2s. We have Ethereum. We have a whole bunch of layer 1s like Cardano are integrating with Boss because what they desperately want is to be able to bring BTC into their system. And now, for the first time, it's going to be possible to do this without any third-party trust at all. Basically, cryptographic integrity, trustless system. We can now do trustless bridging of BTC. And this turns Bitcoin, the chain, into a hub where all of the rest of crypto basically becomes a layer 2 to Bitcoin. And then the second thing that you can do is you can then use this for scaling transactions. So you can run thousands of transactions, roll them up into a single transaction, and as a proof, write that to Bitcoin. And so you can scale out the number of transactions, potentially infinitely, that you can do with Bitcoin. So fast, cheap, much faster, right? Cheaper and boundless scale. And so when we talk about, for example, us being able to make payments, or even more importantly, like maybe automated systems like AI making payments, suddenly this becomes truly feasible. Mm-hmm. And it has the big advantage over something like Lightning Network is that it's not pre-funded. Just like a regular Bitcoin transaction, you send it when you want to send it. You don't have to pre-fund anything. Then the more sophisticated and maybe more exciting thing is, like, a few weeks ago, we demonstrated the ability for people to take one of the most secure and common programming languages of the web, Rust, write software in Rust, and turn that into a smart contract on Bitcoin. So, I'll let me just say, what is a smart contract? All right. So here's the idea with a smart contract. 10 years ago, Vitalik, who had been working on Bitcoin, and was working on colored coins actually, became super frustrated that you couldn't do anything in Bitcoin. So he created a chain where you could do verifiable compute. That's what a smart contract is. It's a computation that everyone can verify. Maybe that computation is a DEX, like a decentralized exchange. Maybe it's a lending pool. Maybe it's a voting mechanism, whatever. Mm-hmm. how do you verify? How does compute become verifiable in every single smart contract chain today? The way it does is you take the entire instruction set, the whole piece of software, you shove it into the chain, and then every single verifier, validator, and full node on that chain needs to independently run every single interaction, every single computation independently. That's why smart contracts don't scale. That's why Ethereum didn't scale. That's why Solana goes down, right? It's because instead of doing one computation, you're doing the same computation, but many, many tens of thousands of times. But zero knowledge proofs offer us a different way of doing this, right? With zero knowledge proofs, you have maybe even a single person run a computation. They can just create a tiny little proof and put that into a blockchain that they've run the computation properly. And that computation has now become a smart contract in the chain because it's verifiable computation in Bitcoin. And so in a way, if you remember how in Kenya, they never got landlines. In Africa, they never got landlines. They leapfrogged straight into mobile phones. Well, Bitcoin is this perfect pure play ledger. Like it's the perfect ledger for the world, the perfect settlement mechanism for the world. And it doesn't have all of this complexity of shoving all of this stuff into it. And it turns out now that we didn't need to shove anything in at all. We just needed to wait for ZK proofs. And so it's really, there's this constant, poetic justice about Bitcoin. And the poetic justice about Bitcoin now is just as we need smart contracts for Bitcoin, just as we need scalability for Bitcoin, the technology to make that possible has presented itself.
An idea's time has come.
Exactly.
All right. What has been the hardest part about doing this so far? Was it the understanding how to do the ZK proofs or something else?
Yeah, I mean, figuring out how to do that in Bitcoin has been considered impossible for most of Bitcoin's history. So that is a major breakthrough. Now it's more about the implementation details. Can we build the tools around us that make it really easy for developers to use? And can we integrate enough of these other systems so that Bitcoin can become what it's always meant to be, which is like an internet of value?
Yeah. Tell me your vision. So the technology works. Let's just hold that as an assumption. It's a big assumption, but let's just say that you get it to work at scale, et cetera. What changes about Bitcoin moving forward, and what does the world look like in that kind of timeline?
Well, I think what changes is that Bitcoin stops being just a store of value and can become a medium of exchange, can become a unit of account, and can become much more than that. So BTC is sort of what we're usually talking about when we talk about Bitcoin. It's just the asset. But there's this really valuable infrastructure that we've built. It's the world's most perfect pure play digital ledger, right? There's one ledger that we can all trust. And there's one settlement mechanism that we can all trust. And there's one system for property rights that we can all trust, right? It's the perfect substrate in which to build, a free market economy for the internet. And so that's, I think, the most exciting opportunity. It's building a borderless digital free market that is unstoppable. And it's a very American idea, I think. Yeah. So that's the exciting thing. Then beyond that, right now we've got still 30% of like the crypto space is not BTC. That's not an insignificant chunk. And it's fragmented across all of these chains. They don't talk to each other. There's constant, we're funding the North Korean government every time there's a bridge hack. Last year they stole $1.6 billion, which they've been using to fund building their intercontinental ballistic missiles, has basically been funded by hacking bridges, right? So now we have the ability to build Bitcoin as a hub for all of this infrastructure that we've built to actually integrate with each other and be secured by Bitcoin. And so on the one hand, we get to release BTC on this, and then we get to turn Bitcoin, the chain, into this like internet of value. And then the third thing is we get to unify crypto into a cohesive industry.
Do you think the rest of the stuff dies away, or do you think that it kind of exists out there, but people prefer to use these, kind of tools, services, products on top of Bitcoin?
By the rest of the stuff, I think you probably mean like all of these other L1s and other chains, right? I don't think they're going to die out. I think some of them, I think they have a choice to make. Like, are they going to integrate and become like the best layer, right? Are they going to become a great place to build applications for BTC? And are they going to attract huge amounts of BTC capital? Or are they possibly going to go the way of the dodo, right? I think basically this is what we've been seeing in the market, right? We've been seeing that Bitcoin has become detached from the rest of the crypto market. And so there's this huge desire now across Ethereum, Solana, Sui, everywhere to integrate into Bitcoin, because they realize that is the economic powerhouse that is powering this entire industry and provide services that are going to be valuable to people who hold BTC and make BTC a much more valuable asset.
What do you need the most help with? Like, people who listen or watch this, what can they do to help you? What's going on, guys? I hope you're enjoying this episode, but real quick, I wanted to tell you, we just launched a brand new show. It's called From the Desk of Anthony Pompliano. Guess what it is? It's me sitting at my desk, talking to you straight to the camera, explaining what's going on in current events across business, finance, politics, and pop culture. If you want to learn every single day, make sure you go over to the brand new YouTube page, From the Desk of Anthony Pompliano, hit the subscribe button. You'll get a video every single weekday. Hope to see you there. Let's get back to this episode.
Well, I mean, I think there's something they can do to help themselves. Like, we're going to build this technology no matter what. This is something that we've been working on since I got into Bitcoin almost. But I think one of the things that we mentioned earlier on, we touched on, there's this overall sense of nihilism that people have, right? That you have to go out to the casino. You have to be at the casino table. You have to be trying to trade your way to, retire your entire bloodline. And I think trying to retire your bloodline is a great idea, but it's a long-term idea. It's not going to happen right now. And so that desperation, I think what people can do is realize, like, there's so much reasons for optimism. We're building really, really cool things. We're building technologies of freedom that we've never had before. The crypto and ecosystem, the Bitcoin market, Bitcoin's finally going to become a currency which is attached to a true free market. That's going to generate massive wealth, like free markets always do. And we've got, technologies like AI, which give everyone who is willing to spend the time to figure out how to use them, because they're super available, superpowers. I know you're, super into, you have this sort of vitality about the hustle. I think there's never been a better time to take risks, to hustle, to build yourself. But the risks that you want to take are risks on you, rather than sort of on some cockamamie meme coin with a hat. So I think the way people can help themselves is extend their time horizon a little bit more, hodl BTC, and figure out how they can build something for themselves.
It's basically just bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, it's very difficult for a lot of people to do. But when they do it, most people I know are very happy.
I think also, it's important not to be discouraged, right? Because betting on yourself, you're going to fail, but there's never been a better time ever to fail. Every single failure is a learning opportunity. And you just keep going. I think one of the cool things about Bitcoin culture, and one of the things that Bitcoin teaches us, is that you just need to have conviction and keep maintaining that conviction, right? If you've held Bitcoin for many years, you're definitely up. If you keep betting yourself with conviction, like Bitcoin, you're going to go up and you're going to go down, and you're going to have your own personal bear markets. But, Churchill had this really great line: when you're going through hell, keep going.
Where can we send people to find you on the internet or find out more about Boss?
Well, you can go to BitcoinOS.build, because that's what we're doing. I'm on Twitter, Edan Yago on Twitter. I think probably by the time this airs, you'll be able to go to the BitcoinOS website and actually get a little taste of the future of truly trustlessly moving BTC from one place to another, and the first applications being built in Bitcoin.
I love it. I think that building is obviously incredibly important. And the thing about building is sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes the tech works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it doesn't. But you don't know until you try, right? And I think that you've always kind of been very focused on, hey, how do we continue to create things around Bitcoin? And so wish you the best of luck. We'll do it again in the future.
Thank you, Anthony.